Hello, welcome back to A Spiritual Ascension, my own 5-year journey, where I'm telling my entire story about what happened to me from April 2020 to April 2025, the before and the after. So, when I left off in the last episode, I think I had called that one a dog returning to its vomit, right? And me returning to something of the past that didn't work out, but I had this illusion that it was supposed to work out. And just a lesson for all of us to say, don't hold on to the past once it's kind of out of our life. Not to say that things that we don't grow and maybe another person may grow and we're meant to come back to that person or that situation in some way. But in most cases, you're on this path. The divine wants us to move through our lesson and move on. Okay. Kind of leave what's in the past in the past. And the signs were already there, but I ignored them. Um, and as I said, my friend brought me back down to Brooklyn. And we went back to that apartment I had been staying in with him for that past week. So now we're talking now 2 weeks that I had been on this journey. So it's somewhere around, I'm going to say May 14th or so of 2020. I'm sorry, 2023. Um, so we ended up staying at the apartment another, I would say 3 days. And then someone in the building must have saw him and I coming back. And they contacted um, the owner of the apartment, his friend, and said, well, saw like two people going in your apartment. And I guess he had only told her that he was going to use the apartment. So she must call him and said that, like, who else do you have there? And she's like, well, I guess I don't want anybody else there. So I'm pretty sure I ended up leaving. What day was that? That must have been like Thursday morning, um, that we left. Or maybe it was Wednesday, one or the other, because I think he got me another hotel room nearby in Brooklyn, for that night. And then he was kind of like, well, you know what? You're going to have to figure something out because at this point he was spending a lot of money and I was very appreciative to him. Um, so he says, you know what? I have enough for you for one more night. Find somewhere, and then you're going to have to find some other way, figure something out. And he was saying, I don't know, at this point, you might have to go back to a shelter. And I was kind of coming to that resolution where, like, the spirit really wanted me to go back to a shelter. I thought I was kind of done with that. But I was like, and I didn't want to go to a shelter in New York too, because that's even worse than, where I was in New Jersey. And I said, I don't feel like I'm supposed to go to another shelter. So, so I had a hard time that day trying to find um, a cheap hotel, because he gave me a limit. He says, find something. And he's like, after that, you gotta figure something out. So I ended up finding a hostel in Queens. And I'm pretty sure that was Thursday night. And so I traveled there, and there was four beds in the room. And I didn't realize how many people use that travel. Like I think there was two Asian women in there, and then there was another woman. Um, how many people travel and then try to, um, let's say, lessen their expenses by kind of staying in that kind of dormitory type of atmosphere. But it was a nice place. Downstairs they had places where you could sit and like kind of lounge, and like a coffee shop and stuff like that. Um, so I went in that night, checked in, kind of got right into bed, and I think I was on the lower tier. There was like two sets of bunk beds. And so that was kind of my first experience with staying in a room with like strangers, you know. And I shouldn't say that other than like the shelter. Um, Also, I had started doing readings for the ARE of New York on their portal. Um, So they have a portal of psychic and mediumship readers that you can go online and choose a reader and set up a time with them to do a reading. So I was on that portal as one of the readers. And the director had contacted me and said, I have this older woman. She kind of needs help in understanding things. And she says, I think you would be good for that, in helping her kind of to understand, be patient with her. So I said, okay, no problem, fine. So I contacted the woman, African woman, kind of hard to understand. But she said to me, I'm up in the Bronx. So I said to her, well, I used to live up in Westchester County, which is nearby. I said, what I can do is I can meet you at a place up there to do the reading in person if you would like. So she had told me that she likes to go to the library in Yonkers. So I said, okay, I can come up there if you want to do it tomorrow, which would be Saturday, because I was in the hostel Friday night. And I had this feeling that there was going to be some kind of connection with her. Um, so I met her the next day. I took the train up to Westchester. Yonkers is in Westchester County, and met her at the library. And right away, I can tell there was some kind of, um, rapport there. And I said something like, I get feelings as far as, people and situations. And I said, there's something about her that's kind of the universe is sending her to me or vice versa. So we sat down and she was saying that she wanted to open up a healing store. And I said, oh, that's so funny. I said, I've been wanting to do that for a long time too. And she's like, really? She said, like, would you go into like a partnership with me? And I said, well, we would have to talk about it and everything. And she's like, well, where are you staying right now? And I said, oh, funny thing you asked that because like I don't have anywhere to stay right now. Like I've been having a friend help me out and um staying in some hotels and stuff like that. But I said, I feel like I'm on some kind of journey right now. And she's like, oh my goodness. She's like, you know what? You come home with me. And I was like, really? So I had got the money for the reading, and it was raining like really hard when we were getting ready to leave the library. And she was really, older. And she had taken the bus there. And I said, it's going to take a lot to take the bus back and, so forth and so on. I said, why don't we get an Uber? And she's like, okay. So I booked the Uber for us and using, my money. Um, Really, it was through her that I was able to get the money anyway. And instead of trying to get the buses and everything, and we got back to her apartment. So now on the way, she's telling me that she's been part of the reading. She was telling me that she's been seeing like these dark spots like appear on her like wood floors in her apartment, and like there's some kind of energy in her apartment, and she won't um she won't eat anything out of her refrigerator because there's something like in the refrigerator and all these kind of really strange things. So as far as me, as you know, also, if you're here, there's a reason for it. You know that you're protected, always protected. Okay. And even though I was kind of weirded out in a way, I knew that like nothing was going to happen to me. So we get to her apartment building in the Bronx, and it didn't seem like she had really cleaned in a long time. So I said to her, I said, like, for letting me stay here, like, I'll clean the bathroom really good and the kitchen floor and stuff like that. So she would not sleep in her bedroom. She just felt like there was something in their bedroom. She slept in like a reclining chair, like sitting upwards, and there was a fold-out couch in the living room. I guess she would lay on that sometimes, but she told me I could lay there. Um, so that's where I ended up staying Saturday night and then Sunday night also. And I'm going to leave it here for now. And I'll get more into the rest of that story um, in the next video. Okay. So thank you again so much for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.